Hello, and welcome. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness. I'm an author, speaker, seminar leader, podcaster, Mimi, grandparent, gardener, just a number of things. And welcome to my show. On this show, I discuss a wide variety of subjects, and sometimes we're on camera, sometimes we're off. And that is why it is called Eclectic Alchemy. I have a number of playlists with all my different subjects, and today's podcast video will be under the Duke and Duchess playlist. Today I'm discussing the similarity of Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex's life to a long time repeated story. It's a loose interpretation. However, just stay with me during the story or my telling of it, and I think you may agree. In 1960, a famous comedian by the name of Jerry Lewis starred in a movie called CinderFella. It was a male version of the often told story of Cinderella. Now, Cinderella was the daughter of a loving father who had remarried because her mother had passed, and he remarried a woman who had two stepdaughters. And unfortunately, the woman that he married was only with him for his money, only with him because of his position in life. Well, unfortunately, he died in an accident, and the stepmother became Cinderella's nemesis. Now, in CinderFella, the characters changed in gender from female to male. So, I want you to listen closely as I loosely tie this storyline with the history of Prince Harry. As I lay out the similarities, I think you will see that Prince Harry has been treated as a lowly stepchild and not as a person in the top 10 in line for the throne of the United Kingdom. So let's begin. In the movie, when Fella's father dies, he continues to live with his wicked stepmother, Emily, and her two sons, Maximilian and Rupert. When I realized the name was Rupert, I immediately thought Murdoch. Yes, well, anyway. His stepfamily takes over the family mansion, while Fella is reduced to living in an unfurnished or unfinished room at the end of a long hallway. He essentially became their butler, catering to their every whim, which is kind of close to the Cinderella story, right? She began being the cleaning person and taking care of them and taking care of the home, and she wasn't given any good clothes to wear and so on. Now, in this CinderFella story, Princess Charming of the Grand Duchy of Moravia is in town. So the wicked stepmother decides to throw her a lavish ball in order to get her to marry one of the sons. Fella is not allowed to go to the ball, but his fairy godfather says he will remain a people. He will not remain a people much longer, but will blossom into a person. Okay. So how is this going to relate to Prince Harry? Well, Prince Harry was born third in line to the throne in the United Kingdom, Henry Charles Albert David Windsor. He was loved by his mother and actually kind of spurned by his father. When Prince Charles found out that Diana had delivered a boy, not a girl, it is rumored that his initial reaction was, "Oh God, it's a boy," followed by, and he even has red hair. Red hair is a Spencer trait, of Diana's family. As Harry grew, he was treated differently than his brother, who was second in line to the throne. It is said that he was not given any special training or the attention from his great-grandmother nor his grandmother, the Queen. But this was okay, I think, because Diana, so let's say Diana is the father from the CinderFella story. Diana poured out a lot of love on her boys, especially Harry, just as Fella's father did. Unfortunately, as in the movie, when Diana dies, things drastically changed for Harry also. We can all still see the hurting young men who were forced to walk behind their mother's coffin on display for millions of people. Harry noted that he had lost his mum, but he couldn't understand this wailing and gnashing of teeth, my words, from people who didn't know her. After this very public funeral, he spent some time with his grandmother, and then he was sent off to boarding school. The teachers and pupils were told not to comfort him or talk about his mum. How cruel were they? A mother of one of the students said she didn't care what they said. She offered Harry her condolences. She didn't ask. She just said to him, "If I can be of any help, let me know." He thanked her, but refused. Can you imagine having lost your mom, being sent off to a boarding school, and no comfort? No, well, let's say back in the 90s, did they do any counseling when you lost the parent? I don't remember. I don't think so. But somebody was there to comfort you and help you get through this, but he wasn't. You know, I'm not going to go through his life training and all the incidences where he was used by the monarchy in order to make others look good, especially his father, and then his brother, because he was basically used as a scapegoat. When wrongdoing was actually initiated by the other brother or his dad, it was Harry who was trotted out as the bad person. You know, much like in CinderFella and Cinderella, they both got in trouble when it was the stepdaughters or the stepsons who were actually doing the deeds. You know, there is one picture that the Derangers are always trotting out as an example of Harry not being a nice person. This is when he went to a party where he wore a Nazi uniform that his brother had suggested. The information about the party got out, but if you notice, if you've seen that picture, there was no other pictures of anybody else at that party. There was no picture of his brother at that party. And that party was some kind of ethnic type party, and people were in costumes, and it was his brother, of course, yes, as I said, who suggested the costume. So the picture of Harry in that outfit hit all the tabloids, and he was vilified as being insensitive to what he was wearing and racist or anti-Semitic or just a Nazi. He was truly upset behind that because it wasn't meant as an insult. He was playing a character. He wasn't saying this is what he was, but that's not how it was written. We've also been told that there was a party place in the basement of Charles's country home, Prince Charles's country home, that was set up by William for drinking and drugs with his buddies. But one day Harry was there, and William was supposed to be there, but he didn't come, and they outed Harry. And to make that look good, when Harry supposedly got caught, they said that Prince Charles put Harry into rehab. This is because Harry is the bad prince, and William is the good prince, and Prince Charles is the perfect father, or in this case, the epitome of the stepmother. And many of these kinds of things happened while he was growing up. His dad used him to make himself look good, because after all, he was still dealing with the Camilla thing. Anyway, he was doing his thing. He went wild. Because he was never put into real therapy to deal with his wounds. And he had lost his mom until he went in the military. He got to know what real people lived like. He got a taste of what racist remark was, but he felt free. And then the firm snatched him from his military life that he loved. We hear about him and the fact that he had gained military titles. He became Captain Wells of the Blue and Royals. But did you know Harry earned 3 other higher levels, but he can't talk about them or use them because his brother is the heir to the throne? And his brother, the other brother, would have to salute his younger brother, and therefore, as the heir to the throne, it's not allowed. But I'm going to share with you what those titles are. On May 14th, 2018, he became Lieutenant Commander of the Blues and the Royals. Also on that day, he attained the rank of Major, and he also attained the rank as Squadron Leader. So he has rank that is much higher than his brother achieved in the air ambulance that he very rarely went to. You see, Harry has been denied his honors because of his brother. Harry did 2 turns in Afghanistan, and he had to come back on the second turn. Well, he was outed on the first turn. He had to leave. He went back, and he was outed again by the tabloids, and they told where he was. They brought him back and said he could take a desk job in the military or work in the firm. He really had no choice because he didn't want to just sit behind a desk in the military and be pampered. You know, I know there's rumors about there was guards around him when he was in Afghanistan to protect him. But he truly, and the people who worked with him said he was really a comrade. He didn't act as though he was to be pampered, and he was shooting guns just like they were. And so he didn't want to just sit behind a desk. So not being an active member of the military was not what he wanted. And so he went to work for the firm. The military was an escape from this life in this golden cage, the golden zoo that he called the royal life. He was always on display from a very young age, and even while in the military, he didn't want to go back to the firm. And he really felt like a real person, right? Not this royalty person, this privileged person. He felt like a real person. He could be himself, but he wasn't allowed during his time. He earned an income from the military. Now, his father was giving him an allowance, which they had to do. I mean, when you think about it, the things he had to do cost a whole lot more than what the military was going to pay, of course. And so his father was giving him allowance, like from a very young age, just like, um, everybody else. Now, Cinderfella didn't get much of an allowance, neither did Cinderella, so this is kind of going off. But he received money from the Duchy of Cornwall, and he received money from the crown for these expenses because Harry was sent wherever there was a fire to be put out because the other brother was too lazy to do the homework of the job, and he stayed home very little. It kind of sounds like the butler for Cinderfella, or the maid that Cinderella was, right? Because he was sent out to do the dirty work, while his brother and sister-in-law eventually were getting used to married life. I feel he was treated as a second-class citizen, and he lived in a small two-bedroom cottage in Kensington Palace that had been created for servants, just like Cinderfella or Cinderella did. Nottingham Cottage is one of the smallest homes within Kensington Palace. He was third in line to the throne and an HRH prince. Harry, in some conversations or interviews, has said the ceiling was so low in some spots he had to duck most of the time. There is some history about Nottingham Cottage that I want to share with you because it is kind of parallel in this story. Marion Crawford was the former governess for Margaret and Elizabeth until 1950, and she lived in this cottage after she left Prince Philip's. After she left, and she was put out when she wrote a book about the monarchy. Prince Philip's private secretary, Sir Miles Hunt Davis, and his wife lived there. And then the Queen's private secretary and his wife, Robert Fellows, lived there. Now, these were all servants, employees. Now, it did come to pass the fourth one to live there was the other brother and his wife, and they lived there for 2 years while their apartment A went under a multi-million-pound renovation. And that apartment A is said to be large. I'm not going to speculate. I know I've seen the number of rooms, but I want to say there's like 20-some rooms in apartment A. And lastly, Harry lived there, moved in as the bachelor, and then Meghan when they married. Harry was used and abused by the press and the firm when he was dating women, and they did not want to become his wife and were fine with just dating because of the harassment and the limelight of the position. But Harry truly wanted a family and was tired of the media abuse. So the media was another one of the abusers of his life. So his brother used him to make him look good. His father used him to make him look good. And the media just needed him to make money. So I liken his abuse to the abuse that Cinderfella got from his family or Cinderella got from her family. Her step family was made her or him do all the dirty jobs. And what is used to cover up for the missteps of both his brother and his father's, it was kind of like when the ball was being announced, when Harry was told about having a blind date with this actress. When Harry met Rachel Meghan Markle, he remarked that this beautiful woman walked into his life. When he saw her, he knew he had to up his game. and give a good chat. Just like CinderFella meeting his princess or Cinderella meeting her prince, they only had to meet in private so no one would know. They couldn't allow the evil media to know that they were dating, because when they did, the evilness came out. The mean stepmother in the story was nice compared to the media. One of the things that I noticed is Harry's dress was not top of the line. In fact, it was noted on a couple of occasions that he had holes in his soles of his shoes. Can you really feel that he couldn't afford new shoes or new clothes? He was not really spending a lot of money on his personal appearance, even though he could go out and have a good time or even travel. And that's just a side note to me, because I'm going, well, could it have been that he said, it doesn't matter what I dress like or what I have, the women are going to fall for me anyway because I am Prince Harry. That's me, my own personal opinion there. But it told me a lot, his dress and the fact that he had holes in his shoes. And it wasn't on just one occasion. This pair of shoes was dress shoes that he used a number of occasions. So he didn't even have a butler like everybody else had, or somebody that took care of his clothes for him. Charles had a butler and maids, and the other brother and his wife had butlers and maids and people who took care of him. Why didn't Harry? Well, let's skip to the life after the engagement and the wedding and the South African tour. The Kensington Palace hate machine went into full force because the Sussexes were overshadowing the heir and consort to be. Oops, I forgot one other thing. The title that Harry was given, he is the second to hold the title of the Duke of Sussex. And it takes its name from the county of Sussex, but has no land attached. And it was created in 1801, November 24th, to Prince Augustus Frederick VI, son of King George III. Harry's wife, Meghan, became the first Duchess of Sussex. Say that 3 times, right? What is interesting about this title that Elizabeth II gave him is that the original Duke was known for wanting the abolition of the slave trade and the removal of restrictions on Jews and dissenters. Augustus was the patron of Jews Hospital and Orphan Asylum. He was an honorable man. Could it be that Elizabeth researched this, or her people researched this and said this would be significant? Lay this one on him because there was no other guy like this? It's possible. Going back to quarters, Frogmore Cottage was a servant's quarter, and also the smallest of the homes the Queen could have given them. There's a lot of information to share that will give you lots of examples how Harry was treated as a second-class citizen within the firm and his family. And I encourage you to write in the notes below in the comments section and give me some of those the examples that you can think of the treatment that Harry and Meghan received, and that it made it necessary for them to escape from the firm and the press. Just as in the CinderFella story, Harry found his princess in Meghan. Thankfully, Meghan knew the world outside of the palace walls and knew their potential. She could show him how they could survive on their own. Do they plan to be half in and half out? The firm said no. Even though there were other royals who did this. Lots of examples of that, and we've all seen it. Take what was he? The Prince whatever, or Kent, and his wife. Examples of people using their HRH in their titles, as in her grandson Philip, or the Duchess of York using her titles, and she's not even married to the Duke of York anymore. The key is, in hindsight, we, the Sussex Squad people, and I'm sure the Sussexes also agree that it was good that they said no. It is good that they said no because the firm nor the monarchy has any control over Meghan and Harry. Even though Prince Harry, just like CinderFella, has flown far away from the control of a father who treats him as a stepson and a grandmother who has remained silent, and the irrelevant press, the firm and the media still try to control their lives. They have found out that the prince and princess have flown away to live happily ever after, free from control, free from being silenced, and free from the royal Rhoda tabloid papers. And by the way, at the end of CinderFella, he found the treasure, the secret treasure that his father had buried, because his dad was rich. And just like them, Harry and Meghan found the treasure at the end with Netflix, Spotify, BetterUp, and all the other joint ventures that they belong to and that are coming forth in their life. They escaped. They are happy, and as they said, love always wins. Thank you for being with me today. I hope that the information that I've shared with you has opened up some new thought processes for you. And if you are a subscriber, thank you for being here. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the bell. Click like so that this can be shared with others and so that I can grow my channel. So, as you have believed, let it be done to you, and it is so, and I will see you in the next video.